morning, good afternoon, evening, or good night. My name is Raphael Ezra, and for today I will be explaining about the sport that I picked for today's topic, which is boxing. So, for the first question is the brief history about the sport. So, from my knowledge, boxing has started thousands of years ago. It's probably around 3,000 years ago in ancient Egypt and in ancient Greece, where it's already a popular sport. It was part of no, it is part of the Olympic Games in ancient Greece and in ancient Egypt, and it was even more brutal in ancient Rome, where they use metal gloves to fight, which usually happens to the gladiators in Colosseum. So boxing resurfaced again in the 16th century, where England um, played the crucial role in in the sport's development. And in the 1867, um, this is how and where or when we get the rules from the boxing that we still follow today. And it is in 1867 actually with the Marquess or Marquis of Queensberry rules, which introduce gloves, 10-second count in knockouts, and 1 to 10 rounds or 1 to 12 rounds. And that's what the sport is today. Until today, from 1867 rules until today is still being followed. And the next one is, boxing's boxing afterwards hasn't become very popular after 1867, but it became very popular again in the early 20th century, where it started. Champions like Jack Dempsey or Sugar Ray Robinson, and later on Muhammad Ali, which makes the sport, more alive again and resurface again. It became very popular, especially Muhammad Ali. I mean, who doesn't know Muhammad Ali? He's literally an icon, and everyone knows who he is. And he is one of the face of boxing, if not the face of boxing until today. And later on in 1980s, 1970s, or the other way around, 1990s is the, well, some people consider it as the golden age of boxing because it was the most exciting years or decades of boxing. For example, I mean, there's George Foreman, the Smoking Joe Frazier, Lennox Lewis, Thomas Hearns, Mike Tyson, and then what else? What else? So there's five. There's a lot of champions that is very popular. And after that, especially Mike Tyson, yeah, Mike Tyson became almost like the next Muhammad Ali, as in terms of famous. I mean, as I said before, who doesn't know Muhammad Ali? And but who doesn't know Mike Tyson? I mean, he's also an icon in boxing history. And until today, from the 1970s to until today, it became the most popular sport, one of the most popular sport of today. When while it is while it is being rivaled to MMA or mixed martial arts, um, it's still popular today, and it doesn't lose to MMA because boxing is still arguably more popular and it has more history behind it. And for fun fact, in boxing, since it's older, there's also a lot more depth in boxing. According to Wikipedia, there's 500 boxers throughout history that has been killed in the ring, and most of them died in the ring in the fight, like straight to the fight. One example is when Sugar Ray Robinson fights Doyle. I forgot his full name, but his last name was Doyle. Where Sugar Ray Robinson just throw a hook so hard at the end of the match, it knocked the hell out of Doyle. It made him unconscious, and he wasn't responding. He was unresponsive in the ring. And when they took them to when they took him to the hospital, he was, he's still unresponsive and is dead due to severe brain injury. And according to most articles besides Wikipedia, there's 1,000 deaths recorded in boxing, most of them by TKO or technical knockouts, where they suffered internal damage in their heads, like brain damage or hemorrhage later on, which is infamously known as drug boxing, drug boxing or something. I'm pretty sure it's called like that. So the next question is, how many players in that sport? Well, in boxing, there's only two guys. There's only two players, men or women. I mean, there's a women division and there's men division, of course. So there's only two players, two opponents, two boxers, one and two boxers. There's two boxers in one ring. And usually there's, no, not usually, there is weight classes in boxing. There's flyweight, bantamweight, middleweight, welterweight, junior lightweight, heavyweight, light heavyweight. There's a lot of weight classes in boxing, and that's for a good reason, to not get people killed. Fight someone your own size. That's the purpose of boxing classes, which also adopted by MMA to reduce, you know, unfair matches. Next is there any special technique or tactics? Well, there is. Boxing is not simple. So there's a reason why if you Google boxing, it's it's mostly known as the world's hardest sport, and I think that's for a good reason, because you need intense skills in boxing. It's not just any other sport. Your life is usually in the line, you know. So the special technique, the special technique. There, okay, first of all, there's head movement. There's head movement, and you have to train that every single day. And usually, boxers like Mike Tyson have thick neck, and usually for them to to resist and tank more punches than usual. And also, oh yeah, there's also footworks. Footwork is very important in boxing. There's a reason why boxers do cardios, for example, jump ropes. Jump ropes not only works as cardio, they also work for improving their footworks. And mainly boxers, they they shadow box to master their footwork. And after that, there's also defensive um, techniques. So there's a lot of techniques in boxing. It's hard for me to explain each and every single one of them. So I'm just going to explain a few of them. So let's start with defensive styles. So the first defensive styles, I will just explain two of them, or three, not three. First one is high guard. High guard is a defensive boxing style, which your butt of your hands is upwards, and it's usually good for blocking hooks or overhands and jabs. And the second one is cross defense. A good example is Foreman, George Foreman. He do this. It's it's mostly just unorthodox, but it's effective. Where you block your opponent's punches by doing this. Usually, it works better if you're taller than your opponent. The third, um, the third defensive style is Philly shell, which is hard to explain, but it's usually angling your body against your opponent. So the stance is like this. Well, it depends on your stances. In boxing, there's orthodox and southpaw, where orthodox is the regular stance where your left body or left foot and left arm is pointing um, forward. Southpaw is the opposite. Your right body is forward. So in Philly shell, you want to take your lead arm to the to cover your body and your other arm to the side of your cheek to defend against hooks. So if the opponent jabs, you just do this shoulder roll, or if your opponent throw a straight, you parry with your glove. If the opponent throws a hook, you you blocked it with a block, of course. And in boxing, there's a lot of punches. So the most common punches is jab. This is the most fundamental jab, and every boxer should know this. So jab is basically do this. All right, it's it's a straightforward punch where you just flick your arm straight to the opponent, usually without much force. Although there's some people who some boxers whose jabs are heavy, and there's hooks. You see, the regular hook supposedly is like this, where your hand is pointed like this. So the most common one is American hook, which you're instead of this, you do this, which for me is easier. And then there's the classic uppercut. After uppercut, there's body shot, right body shot, liver shot. And then there's overhand, which you usually lean forward and then throw upwards to your opponent from above your opponent down to their head. That's usually what an overhand is. So yeah, I guess that's the tactics basically. I forgot to mention there's also styles in boxing. First, I want to explain maybe just four of them, and this is usually the general one. I will probably give the examples for the boxers, which with the styles for. First one is what is it? A slugger. Let's just start with slugger. So a slugger, as its name, a slugger prioritizes their punching power. They still they still maintain their distance, but they prioritize their the punching power they have. You know, that's why like George Foreman, that's why they are known as slugger because their punches packs a lot of force, which usually is their advantage. They take their punching power as an advantage to overwhelm and knock out their opponents. But they can also defend themselves very well. The second one is outboxer. Outboxer is a boxer who maintain distance. One good example is Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali wasn't exactly a slugger. He hits pretty hard, but not as hard as Joe Frazier or Foreman in their prime. And Ali usually pri- prioritize his agility and his reach to maintain distances from his opponent. So he will circle around the ring and maintain distance with his opponent. Oh yeah, for the slugger is George Foreman. That's the example. The third one, infighter. Infighter is the opposite of outboxer. So outboxer they maintain distance, but infighter they get in your defense. They get in your reach. So this is your reach, and an infighter will get inside the reach and overwhelm you with a barrage of punches and pummels you until you get knocked out. Perfect example is Mike Tyson or Manny Pacquiao, where he over where they overwhelm their opponents by moving close to their distance and throw barrage of clean punches to their faces and usually to their body, like Mike Tyson. And fourth one, a boxer puncher. Boxer puncher is a combination between an outboxer and a brawler. So he has the fighting IQ, the ring IQ of an outboxer. He maintains his distance, but he can also be as aggressive as an infighter. Perfect example is Thomas Hearns. He was very well known for his infamous style, the Hitman style, where he has long reach that makes his opponent confused and how to reach him. But he can also be very aggressive with his style, like throwing a barrage of punches to his opponent, like his fight against Durant. So I guess that's it for the techniques and shit and stuff. So what are the tools and equipments that are needed for boxing? It's quite it's it's quite simple actually, and I think you just need a hand wrapper. You know, you need a hand wrapper. The hand wrapper's purpose is to protect your knuckles so it won't get damaged or your skin get peeled off. I've experienced that before. So a hand wrapper is to protect your knuckles. And then you will need a boxing glove, of course. And a boxing glove, the the normal one, the standard size for boxing is 10 ounces, 12 ounces, and 14 ounces. But it depends on your weight. If you're big, if you're big and weigh a lot, you may need 14 ounces or even 16 ounces. So also you probably need a a punching pad. Usually for coaches to teach you combinations and how to throw them precisely. And I think that's it. Oh no, for sparring, of course, you need a headgear to reduce the damage, usually for amateurs. And you also need a specific type of shoe, which is a boxing shoe. If you don't have one, you can use a sneaker, it's okay. But preferably a boxing shoe. You can find them in online store, I think. And I think that's it. That's all you need. Oh, and optionally you need a jumping rope. That's usually what boxers do to increase and improve their footwork and cardiovascular. Okay, so for the next question is the field of the sport. So in professional boxing ring, they have larger they have larger ring size. It's around I think it's 20 feet. I guess yeah, it's 20 feet or 6.1 meters in length. And amateur boxing, it's only 18 feet or 5.5 meters in overall size. And then for the rope is usually 48 to 52 inches from the canvas. And there's also canvas padding in each corners to protect, for the comfort and to protect against crashes. And I guess that's the size for the sport. How to play and how to get score. That's the next question. So it depends, you know. So there's three there's r- three ways that how you get a score in boxing. So the first score is usually your overall performance in that ring. Your aggression. Your aggression is not by just throwing haymakers. The judge will judge you based on how well you how well you use that aggression. Perfect example is Mike Tyson. He was aggressive, but he was smart. He was aggressive, but his punches were very destructive. Hence, he was nicknamed the Kid Dynamite and Iron Mike. And you will get a score for that. And also your defensive tactics. How well you defend against your opponent's attacks. How well you blocked it, how well you dodge it, how well you slip through it. And also your ring IQ, how well you maintain your distance and everything else. But overall, it usually ends with, well, if two opponents are still okay, they're both of them are still not knocked out, and the match has ended, the fight usually by unanimous decision will be determined determined by how many punches landed, how many clean punches landed. For example, anywhere to the face, a clean body shot throughout your body, and everything else. There's also a rule in boxing. I forgot to mention that you are not allowed to hit your opponent in the back of your skull. No, that is not allowed. That will literally cause your opponent to get brain damage even more. The worst of all, paralyzed. And the next one is to not headbutt. Headbutt is illegal in boxing. You cannot headbutt your opponent. Third one is low hit. What low hit means, punching your opponent's balls. You can't do that, all right? That's prohibited in boxing. So, all right, the judge will pay very close attention to the replays, how many clean punches lands to your opponent, or how many the punches landed to you by your opponent, and the winner will be determined by that. Usually, if the two opponents are still fine. The second one is TKO, or technical knockouts. Well, basically, you manage let's say you manage to knock knock out your opponent. You knock down your opponent, but he's still fine. He's not completely unconscious. You just knocked him down, but he can still get up. But usually he's sluggish. It's usually by the referee's decision that he can't continue, or by um the doctor's decision that he can't continue. For example, damage in their eye sockets. That's usually very dangerous. And also by the coach decision, his team, the opponent's group decision, usually by throwing towel into the canvas in the ring, that we give up. That's basically what TKO means. The opponent is not knocked out, but he can't continue the fight with all of those reasons. And the last one is KO, knockout. Who doesn't know knockouts? Do I need to explain? I mean, KO. How many punches you landed? How how well you defend against your opponent? Ring IQ. All of that doesn't matter if you completely knock the hell out of your opponent unconscious. So, well, you punch your opponent so hard with a clean shot, with a clean punch, you knocked him out cold, unconscious. That's KO and an instant win. And, well, I think that's the last question. So, thank you for this video, and thank you for overall this speech, I guess. And I'm I apologize if there's any mistakes that I make because this is currently 11:30 p.m. So thank you.